Welcome back to Ozone Billiards for this fourth and concluding set of our practice match between myself, Mike Holt and Brian Wroolie in the BCA San Diego Metro 10-ball league. We're just trying to get a bit of practice in before our big match against the very skillful on Q1 second place team. And we're playing race to 3 racks of 10 ball. It's exactly the same as we actually play in the BCA league. And we're getting the practice on these lovely 9-foot diamond tables here at Ozone O'Billiard Café. Trying to stroke this in nicely. Caught it a bit too thick. Yeah, as league players, we probably don't play an awful lot, maybe a couple of nights a week. And the thing with a game like billiards is you've really got to be putting the time in to keep that stroke and that cue action well grooved. Very fine motor control and finesse required as Brian leaves that one in the jaws. So the two's over the corner. I just have to be cautious and playing this ball that's deep in the jaws of the pocket. It's sometimes hard to judge the exact path and speed of the cue ball. And as you can see there, that was a prime example of what I meant. I tried to go cushion first, put a bit of running English on there, which is left side in this instance, and completely misjudged the line and pace, came all the way down table and scratched. So that's what happens sometimes when you're trying to get too close on those. I should have just settled for being a long way away and tried to get that gap between the 4 or 5, which was probably the biggest window of opportunity to get through. Once again, Brian's done something similar. He's lost the cue ball some distance away here. He could play a combination 3 onto the 6, but that's a little risky now from where he is. So potentially just try a snooker. It could be banking that 3 just past the 9, to the left of the 9, try and get it up the table and then get behind the 6. So this is exactly what he's done. That's a great shot, well executed. But the 3's come all the way around and presented itself to me. I was snookered on it, but I should be able to get access to it. Just a slight bit of bend. There'll be a lot of left hand side on this. I've just got to make sure I don't hit the point, the middle pocket. That's turned out okay. I left a thin cut for Brian in this top left pocket. And you could play this with a little bit of right English just to try and swing the cue ball around that top right hand corner of the table. But he's caught it a little too thin. And that cue ball's going to come up and give me a sight of it, I think. Not sure if the 8's just slightly in the way. I'll soon see if I have to elevate here. I am doing. So I'm trying to bend this a little bit. You see a lot of left English and downward striking. You do with a kiss on the 8. And that's done me a favour. Held me up nicely on the 4 ball. Need to try and draw out into the middle of the table for the 5 in the bottom left. Actually, it looks like, yeah, I didn't realise I had the angle to go forward there. With a little bit of right English, that shaped it up very nicely. Now, here I think, just to be safe, I'm going to play well clear of the 8 ball, so I'm going to go quite far up the table, maybe to the centre of the table. It'd be good to get past the pocket line on the 6 as well, so that I've got an angle to go towards the 7. I slightly overhit it. So being thinner than I wanted, there's a risk that I can lose the cue ball and leave the 7 there, which wouldn't be good. So the solution I'm thinking is to play with a lot of backspin. It's a draw shot, but because it's so thin, the cue ball won't come back, but it will hopefully widen the tangent line enough to clip that 7, hopefully promote it towards the corner pocket. and that's worked out delightfully. The 7's very kindly gone on the rail as well, so it just makes it a little bit easier. If it was a fraction off the rail, it's actually a harder pot. But here I can just follow forward, come round up 2 rails. And I didn't really want that collision on the 10. I wanted to try and get past the 10 with a bit of left English. So it's pretty straight into this right centre pocket. So I'm going to try and play with a bit of draw to come back for the 9, and also to maybe get the cue ball a bit safer for 8 misses. As it did. And with the 8 catching both points and coming back here, I think there's a chance for Brian. He can either bank it in the right centre, or he's already played a wonderful cut all the way up that rail of a 10 ball earlier in this match. So he's playing the bank in the cross side and just trying to draw back a little to shape on the 9. Oh, and Brian also hits both points with that pocket. Well, that 8's come back awfully close to this rail, and although it might look like quite close to a natural angle to bank in the right centre, with it being so close to the rail, I don't think I can avoid the double kiss. So I'm looking at safety to bank the 8 to the upper half of that right hand long rail, maybe get the middle diamond, the top section of it there on the top right, and then across to the middle of the top cushion, and get the cue ball in the middle of the bottom cushion. I was a little bit off with the 8. As you can see, it does present itself as a cut into the top right. By no means easy with the cue ball where it is though. It's an acid test of cue action and your smoothness of your stroke. As you see there, he's got a little bit of left English on this as well. Always difficult to put spin on when he's so close to the rail. And that's made him hit it awfully thin, and he's gone and scratched. So this is a great chance now to get the first rack on the board in this 4th and final set. And although it's a harder pot, I like this shot because when I've got ball in hand, I like to play follow shots. Following it forward gives me the best chance to control the line and the length of the cue ball position. And here I can follow forward, get right down next to that 9 ball. That little nudge is finished perfectly. Just off straight, which is ideal, because had I been flat, I'd have been a little bit awkward. I would have had to play for the 10 in the top right, but here I can play forward with top and right hand English to spin out and get above the spot, the middle of the table, for an unmissable 10. And these are the ones you like. This gives me 1-0 lead, and I'll be breaking rack 2. What sort of a break can I manage here? I mean, that's a textbook. The ball from the second row, which is the 8 ball, has dropped in the middle. The 1's tracked up the table nicely, and the cue ball, well, you couldn't ask for better than that, could you? Perfectly on the 1. Yeah. Do need the bridge. It's a bit of an awkward stretch, but I can just play a stun shot here. Off that long rail and then back out. Try and get fairly straight on the 2, and exactly in the middle of the table will be perfect. There's a 3 and 4 nearby. And that line and length looks good. So I'm slightly off straight, but I can hold this very easily. Just a little soft stun shot. And a similar angle just off straight on this 3. So again, another soft stun. And now I've got the angle here to play off this one rail to come across. Actually, it's going to be two rails. I'm trying to get just below the right center pocket. Oh, a bit close to the side. Where's it going? Very fortunate there. Misjudged that a little bit. So I finished a little bit flatter than I wanted. Just got to follow forward. Not really got much English on this. Looking back on it, I could have done with a trace of left there. This is a bit steeper than is ideal. Now the cue ball is going to be tracking over towards the 10. So I'm going to put a tiny trace of the right hand English on the cue ball, just a tiny bit. I don't want to put too much and scratch in the bottom right, but just focus entirely on getting that 6 ball in the pocket. Just make the 6. The cue ball is going to be traveling down towards the 7, trusting to a little bit of luck precisely where I'm going to finish. Just put a nice stroke on it. And just clip the 10, but that worked out absolutely perfectly. Nudge the 7 towards the pocket, got the perfect angle. I can just roll this in with a bit of follow, come off the rail, trying to get straight on that 9. And just a little stop shot. And this 10 for the break and run and the 2-0 lead put me on the hill. And there we go, finally got the stroke going nicely. But everything stemmed from the break off there. Get a good break. The game looks easy. Well, no such luck this time around. Coming up dry. I think I took a little bit of power off that one. So is he playing the snooker here behind the 2, or he's going for it in the side? Very acute angle. Yeah, so it was a safe, but I think it's just leaked out. And whilst it's tight, first of all to hit enough of the 1, and then for the 1 to pass the 7, I do think it's on in the bottom right. Shaping for the 2 is tricky though with that little cluster of balls. So I'm trying to play a stun draw to get the cue ball to go below the 4. Don't want to hit the 4. I want to go all the way over to the left hand long rail and then come back, find a gap and leave myself a cut on the 2 in the top right pocket. Let's see. Asking a lot here. Well, straight into the 4, but actually that's not finished too bad. This is definitely makeable. Shape on the 3 is tricky. I think you've got to try and go 2 rails, both long rails, and come back to close to where the 2 is now, and then you've got the 3 in the bottom left, because the 9's blocking it in the bottom right. And once again, try and put all your focus on making this ball and just let the cue ball take care of itself. Too thin and too hard as well with the cue ball, but I get lucky and it rolls to a pretty safe position. I think the 5's actually hooking Brian on this. Could try a little bit of a bend. He's got to get the elevation, so it's hard to jack up the cue enough. What's he playing? I think he's playing a tactical stroke here. Yeah, he doesn't want to sell out the 10. So chose to give me ball in hand there. Because the 2-10 was so close together. If he missed the 2, I would have had a straightforward carom shot. Now, do you try and run out here? Or do you play for snookers? Looks like I'm trying to run out. Just looking at the angle to get on the 3 in the side pocket. Following forward off the rail. So I'm running into the line of the shot, but I think I'm running too hard. Here. I don't mind that. I mean, I think I played the right choice. I just didn't quite execute it properly. If I'd have just had a slightly wider line off that long rail, so that as I was coming towards the 3, the whole way from that cushion I would have been on it. So it's like approaching a ball along the line of position, which is something Niels Fahan gives some excellent tuition about in his many wonderful videos, Terminator Tips series. If you've not seen him yet, I'd strongly recommend him on YouTube. So attempted kick bank doesn't work out. And a chance for Brian here. It's not easy, but you can just pop this in the top right. A little bit of below centre striking. You could use the 5 as a stopper for the 4, but you may choose to draw below the 5. Just a fraction too thick. And this shot is one of the more common shots in this game. Cutting the ball in, trying to come off the long rail and then back across for a ball in the diagonally opposite pocket. But I've overrun the shape there. I was definitely playing for that in the bottom left, but I do have a chance in the bottom right instead. It's tight past the 8, but it does go. And I think I can engineer it so the cue ball just uses one rail and still comes up for the 5 in the side. Yeah, unfortunately put it straight into the 8. But got lucky again. Rolls have been going my way tonight, and that's for sure. And just a little too thick. An attempted cut there. And left this a little tricky. Extremely thin in there, so I'm playing cross corner bank and just getting the cue ball out of the way. I quite like that shot because if it goes in you can carry on, but very likely it's going to be safe as it's turned out. Looks like a save from Brian here. Loads of left English. Well, that's pretty safe. The double kiss worked to his favour there. So I'm getting the bridge out and thinking about the path of the cue ball here. If I thin off this 4 with a lot of English, I can either play off the left or the right side. So I'm just trying to work out which one offers the best line. I'm thinking maybe the left side. I can see a path there of 3 rails down. It's this bottom right corner. But you've just got to try and hit the 4 thin enough so it stays in that quadrant of the table. And as it happens, I've hit it quite a lot thicker than intended, and it's come all the way down with the cue ball. So even though I've got the white exactly where I wanted it, could have done with the white being a little slower and the 4 being a lot slower. I'm stroking this in the top, I think. Nice try. Yep, beautifully done. Played it at the perfect pace to just drop in. Has he got shape on the 5 in the side? Looks as though he may have. That 10 could be taking the middle pocket out of the equation. He's got to play it in the same pocket as the 4, I think. Oh no. Slightly misleading angle there. He's done well. He's got nicely on the 6, but seems to be slightly off angle, so he's going away from the 7 a bit here in potting this. So following forward with left English would help him get towards the 7. But just a little bit out with his pot, so challenging one for me here. This is just off straight. I think I'm just going to try and stun directly across the table rather than using the top cushion. It's a bit too flat for that. More of a power stun draw there. Slightly too hard. This is a tricky 7 from this distance, but I think I'm going to load up with right English. It's a shot I practiced last week. We had a little session of playing shots like this, so I have a good idea of the path of the cue ball. Just catch it a little too thick, leave it in the jaws. I'd have caught it a wee bit thinner. I think the cue ball would have run out nicely and been perfectly on that 8. So it's one of these in the jaws of the pocket. So it looks elementary, but the line and length is always tricky. That cue ball, how it's going to react. So I played it nicely coming rail first. Didn't really want the kiss on the 9 though. If it had got past the 9, I'd say it was straight out. But here, this is just, it's a tricky one, cutting across the face of the 8. Got to put a nice stroke on this. Trust your line. Don't do any adjustments once you're down, because it could be misleading from that position. And drift across for the 9 in the top right. Just too thin. So, chance here to finish these off. How do you play shape on this 9? Do you stay below it, play for it in the top right? Or do you try and get loads of right-hand English and get above it? I think I might have been in two minds because I did neither. I completely missed the 8. I left it a bit tricky for Brian again. He's bridging over the 9. He's got put a bit of backspin and left on this. But he has come nicely above the 9. So he can just drop this in. Keep this set going. Yeah, but I think he's had enough. A little bit of exasperation showing there. I totally relate to that feeling. So, just a straightforward 9. And this 10, just to finish off. So, thanks very much for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. Please, if you do enjoy the video, please subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the channel again real soon.